There were months I came so close to breaking. I'd see a guard's AK-47 lying there unattended, and my mind would just race with these impossible plans. How many could I take before they got me? It was this little fantasy of control in a world where I had none. I thought about suicide. It would have been easy, but something held me back. I learned to cope in small ways. I did yoga on a filthy mat, just stretching my body as a way to reclaim some small piece of myself. I became close with another hostage, a fisherman from Seychelles. We were two guys from completely different worlds, tied together by the same nightmare. We kept each other sane. My release on September 22nd, 2014, was nothing like a Hollywood movie. It was just a tense, shaky exchange of me for money. Even as our car was speeding away, I could hear the pirates erupt into a gunfight behind us, already fighting over the ransom. My first real moment of freedom was walking into a hotel room in Nairobi and seeing a real bed, that was all mine. Taking a shower without 6 armed guards watching felt like an actual miracle. When I finally spoke to my mother, her first words weren't about what I'd been through. She apologized for what she had been through. I just told her, "It's okay, you're free now too." I really thought the nightmare was over. The moment my feet touched solid ground, relief washed over me. I was free. But that feeling was, I had escaped the pirates, but not what they'd done to my mind. The real prison wasn't made of steel. It was the one they had built inside my head, and I was still locked inside. The world I had longed for was suddenly an assault. Everything was dialed up to 11. A cash register sounded like an alarm. The chatter in a coffee shop was a roaring cacophony. For months, my brain's only job was survival. Now, algorithm was running haywire in a safe world, seeing danger in every shadow and sudden movement. I felt like a stranger at my own homecoming party. Friends and family were there, but I felt a universe away. I stood among them, surrounded by laughter, but it was like watching a movie of a life that was no longer mine. They were celebrating the return of a man who didn't exist anymore, a ghost haunted by things he could never explain. In the desperate hours of the night, I searched for answers. I learned that while most former hostages are resilient, over a quarter show signs of PTSD. Reading that statistic was a strange mix of terror and validation. I wasn't weak or going crazy. There was a name for this invisible war I was fighting. I was definitely in that 25%. The prison of the mind doesn't have bars, but it's just as real. Sleep wasn't an escape. It was a doorway to nightmares. I'd wake up gasping, heart hammering, drenched in sweat. I began to fear my own bed. This created a bone-deep exhaustion that no rest could touch, because my nights were more harrowing than my days. My body remembered the danger, even when my mind knew I was safe. My nervous system was a tripwire. A car backfiring sent my heart into a panic, my body reacting to a threat that wasn't there. Adrenaline would flood my system, my muscles tensing for an impact that never came. It was a constant, exhausting state of high alert. The silence was the hardest part. At the dinner table, my family would talk about their day, and I would just sit there, a black hole of unspoken horror. How do you bring up the man you watched being tortured while you're all deciding what to have for dinner? There's no vocabulary for that. Any attempt to explain would either horrify them or cheapen the memory. The gap just felt too wide to cross. So I retreated. I was free, but I had never felt more alone. The loneliness wasn't about being by myself. It was about being unknowable, trapped with a version of myself I no longer recognized. I was a ghost in my own life, haunted by things I could never share. I had survived the pirates. Could I survive the peace? The years since I got back haven't been a straight line to getting better. People expect immediate relief, a celebration of freedom. And while that was there, it was buried under the chaotic, disorienting reality of returning to a world that felt alien. It's been a messy, painful, and slow journey to find a new kind of normal, a life where I didn't feel like a ghost haunting my own memories. The simplest things were overwhelming: the noise of a city, the open space. I was physically free, but my mind was still trapped on that ship. Survival is its own battle. The real fight began after I was safe. It's a silent, internal war fought against nightmares that jolt you awake, and flashbacks triggered by the most innocent things: a loud noise, the smell of the sea. It's about learning to be patient with yourself when your own mind feels like a minefield, to give yourself some grace when you can't just get over it. The exhaustion is profound, not from physical exertion, but from the constant draining state of being on guard, waiting for a threat that is no longer there. I had to learn how to manage the overwhelming emotions. The anger was a furnace, not just at my captors, but at the injustice of it all. The depression was a thick fog, stealing color from the world, leaving me hollowed out. And the anxiety was a constant buzzing current that made my heart race. Therapy gave me a language for this chaos. It provided tools, not to erase the feelings, but to understand them, to create distance, and just give myself space to breathe without being swept away by the storm inside. Forgiving my captors felt impossible, a betrayal of my own offering. For a long time, the thought just fueled my rage. But I slowly realized that the hatred I carried was a heavy chain, linking me directly back to them. It was a poison I was drinking myself. Forgiveness wasn't for them. It was never about condoning what they did. It was for me. It was the only way I could take back the power they still had over my mind, the only way to finally cut the rope and set myself free. My story is just one. Since 2001, more than 3,000 seafarers have been taken hostage by Somali pirates. Many of them get little to no mental health support after they're released, left to navigate the aftermath alone. And the trauma doesn't just affect the survivor. It radiates outwards, touching spouses and children. Organizations like Hostage International and Hostage US are doing critical work. They support not just former hostages, but also the families who suffer right alongside them. They create a community. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about learning to live with the memory, to weave it into your story without letting it become the whole book. It's about accepting the scars as proof of survival. My story has a dark chapter, but it is not the end. My 977 days in Somalia are a part of my history, but I refuse to let them be my destiny. For a long time after I came home, the two felt inseparable. The past was a shadow that dictated my future, whispering that I was broken, that I would never truly be safe again. But history is what happened to us. Destiny is what we choose to do with it. The real freedom isn't just escaping your captors, it's escaping the prison they build in your mind. That prison has no physical walls, but its bars are forged from fear, mistrust, and anger. It isolates you, convincing you that no one can understand. For me, that journey of escape began with small, deliberate acts of defiance. Choosing to trust a friend, finding peace in a sunrise, allowing myself to laugh without guilt. It's a slow process of dismantling that prison, brick by brick. And that's a journey I'm still on, one day at a time. Thank you for listening to my story. Sharing it is part of my own healing process. I've learned that the deepest pain, the kind that truly hollows you out, comes from feeling like you're all alone in your struggle. It's the silence that magnifies the suffering. When we keep our trauma locked away, it festers. But when we bring it into the light, it begins to lose its power. So if you or someone you know is dealing with trauma, please know you are not alone. There is a world of people who understand. We're often taught that strength means bearing our burdens silently, but that's a profound misunderstanding. True strength is the courage to be vulnerable, to say I'm not okay, and to reach out. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate act of self-preservation and hope. If this story connected with you, I invite you to subscribe. We'll be exploring more stories not just about resilience, but about the messy, complicated, and beautiful process of what comes after. We'll talk about finding meaning, rebuilding a life, and discovering a new kind of strength. And if you're comfortable, feel free to share your own story of overcoming a struggle in the comments. Your experience could be the very thing someone else needs to read today to feel less alone. Building a community where we can share things without judgment is one of the most powerful ways we can heal together. Let's create that space right here.